Shai. How about Shemel Shai? Barakatah Yahweh Shai. Barakatah Yahweh. Barakatah Yahweh. Barakatah Yahweh Shai.
But understand thou for thyself as be like thee. For unto you is paradise open, the tree of life is planted, the time to come is prepared, plenteousness is made ready, a city is builded, and rest is allowed. Yea, perfect goodness and wisdom. The root of evil is sealed up from you, weakness and the mob is hid from you, and corruption is fled into hell to be forgotten. Sorrows are past, and in the end eschewed the treasure of immortality. Let my soul bless Yahweh, the great King. When Jerusalem shall be built up with sapphires and emeralds, and precious tablets with pure gold. And the streets of Jerusalem shall be paved with beryl and carbuncle and stones of Ophir. And all her streets shall say, Alleluia, and they shall praise him, saying, Blessed be Yahweh, which have extolled it forever.
It's about time, man, because I'm ready to go home. I'm ready to get the kingdom. I'm ready to live. I'm ready to breathe fresh. I'm ready to have beautiful, pure women, okay? Not no strawberry harlots on this side. Ready to have children, man, you can vibe with, okay? Be around brothers. Be around the Lord himself. Okay, I'm ready to go and visit places in the galaxy that we didn't know exist. All right, I'm ready to walk on sandy beaches, man, and explore the ocean floor. I'm ready to fly. Okay, I'm ready to eat real food. Okay, I'm ready to drive a chariot, man. All right, I'm ready to minister to the Lord and to be ministered to, man. Okay, I'm ready to worship Yahweh Shai in its full entirety. Okay, I'm ready for it. We're ready, man. I'm ready to see angels and greet angels.
Barakatah Yahweh Shai. Barakatah Yahweh. Barakatah Yahweh. Barakatah Yahweh Shai.
All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I would like to give all praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of GMS who rule well, teach well, being great examples to his younger brothers. And peace and blessing, salutations to the hopeful lake out there pushing his word in truth and in sincerity across the four winds in the name of Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, pushing to get up out of here. Also, like Shalom to the hopeful lake, the believers, the listeners who may have came back to the obedience of the scriptures through faith in Yahweh Bashem Al Shai. All right, and what I want to get into today is dealing with 1 Corinthians. All right, the fourth chapter. Continuing it on in the book of 1 Corinthians. Okay, so we made it to the fourth chapter. All right, and this is where the apostle speaks on. All right, Apostle Paul speaks on how the apostles are set forth last. And I want to get into that custom as well, as it relates to our walk. All these epistles, these letters to the churches, all right, or written in the spirit to where we can relate, all right, edify, teach, okay, and apply, this wisdom, okay, that's being passed on to the churches from the apostles, which the apostles are getting it from Yahweh Bashem Al Shai through the spirit. Okay, so these letters, are used even today to guide the churches in righteousness, okay, to expound, all right, on understanding, of Yahweh Shai, okay, so forth and so on, okay, understanding what this ministry is about, what we're a part of, especially, as teachers and believers, okay. So let's go to 1 Corinthians 4:1. It says, so look at Apollos and me as mere servants of Hamashiach, who have been put in charge explaining the Most High's mysteries, man. because as teachers, we've all right been given an oversight. The spirit, has set men up, and there's rank within, the ministry. Okay. But from the least to the greatest, we've all been set up to expound on the mysteries of the Most High to the flock. All right. So the believers can be edified, fully built up to go through whatever suffering, we have to endure for the kingdom. Okay. Understanding the mystery, because the Lord's going to put the spirit on us to be willing to suffer because we understand the mysteries. We know that there's something great beyond this. That's a mystery. You see, that's not revealed to everyone. Okay. So the spirit, has given, what men the oversight. Let's go here. And then 1 Peter 5. Okay, 1 Peter chapter 5 and 2. It says, care for the flock that the Most High has entrusted to you. Watch over it willingly, not grudgingly, all right, feeling some type of way, with the responsibility given to us, pouting. Nah, man. We should be willingly, we should be, privileged that the Lord has entrusted us to do this, man. To be a servant. You see, we should be more than honored, to serve our King. It said, not for what you will get out of it, but because you are eager to serve the Most High, because it's the right thing to do. And sincerely teaching our people this truth. Okay. Sincere edification sets our people up to win. Okay. It's not just for the sake because there's a reward for it. It's not the sole purpose, but to see Jake in good state, man, to see the church in good standings, man. Okay. Because we're going to get, the perks. See, when our people is in order, the perks flow. The Lord gonna flood us with the perks and the wealth and those particular things. As we go into our heart's desire. Okay. Well, now it's about the church being put in order. Us ourselves being put in order and putting in order the church. Okay, of Yahushua. Verse 3 said, don't lord over the people assigned to your care, but lead them by your own good example, man. Yeah, so we're not here to lord over people. Okay, because of the gift that the Lord has given us, as teachers. We're not here to manipulate that gift, okay, for a power grab, okay, or a power play. You see, or to be a tyrant, all right, a cult of personality over the church. No, we're here to be examples of what we teach. Okay, the balance, the patience, okay, the discipline, applying the wisdom, sacrificing, okay, humility. We're here to embody, what we teach. Okay. It says, and when the great shepherd appears, which is Yahushua, you receive a crown of never-ending glory and honor. Okay, so Yahushua is going to come, and reward and honor his men. Okay, for being, those good shepherds in his stead. Okay, so going back to 1 Corinthians. Let's go back to 1 Corinthians 4. Okay, and 1. Again, it says, so look at Apollos and me as mere servants, okay, of Hamashiach, who have been put in charge, all right, explaining the Most High mystery. Now, a person who is put in charge as a manager must be faithful, or as a steward. Okay, we those stewards that's entrusted with the Lord's goods, with his house, which is the church. Okay, you go to Luke 12. Let's get this in Luke 12. All right. This is the book of Luke chapter 12 and start at 40. I started 41. Said, Peter asked, Lord, is that illustration just for us or for everyone? All right, verse 42. And the Lord replied, a faithful, sensible servant is one whom the master can give the responsibility of managing his other household servants and feeding them. Okay, so we're managing, all right, the household servants of Yahushua, which is the church. All right, they don't belong to us. Okay, these are the servants of Yahushua. Okay, and we've been tasked, as we're being groomed up to lead. Okay, to train them up to serve. To be servants in the Lord's kingdom that's to come. All right, in the kingdom of Yahushua. It says, if the master returns and finds that the servants have done a good job, there will be a reward. Okay, so we want to be found, okay, doing what? Good, okay, which is edification, okay, humility. You see, dead to this world, okay, about the Father's business. You see, we want to be found as those responsible, okay, servants whom the Lord left in charge over the house. Okay, well, Yahushua wants to come back and see his house in order. Okay, I says, I tell you the truth, the master will put that servant in charge of all he owns. But what if that servant thinks my master won't be back for a while, and he begins beating the other servants, partying and getting drunk? Okay, so you have those good servants whom the Lord's going to, all right, allow them to be what? Joint heirs. So he's going to put him in charge of all he owns, which is going to be the earth, and even beyond. But beginning with the earth, there's going to be an authority granted to those good servants, man. And that's the number we want to be in. Okay, but then you have the other side, which we're seeing it playing out real time. As the Lord has it, I'm going through these series, man. These events are relevant real time. We have real time examples, man, showing you that everything is guided by the spirit of Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua and his timing, man. Okay. Luke 12:45 said, but what if the servant thinks my master won't be back for a while, and he begins beating the other servants, partying and getting drunk? Okay. The master will return unannounced and unexpected, and he will cut the servant in pieces and banish him, all right, with the unfaithful. Okay, so there's a lot of men from Yahushua, all right, is getting ready to bring punishment back to. There's those that are, okay, being prepared to be rewarded, and those are prepared to be punishment. All right, and what we're seeing amongst these guys, all right, these other camps, okay, they're partying. They're being irresponsible with the truth. They're being irresponsible with this ministry, man. Undisciplined. Teaching anything, saying anything, doing anything, talking about anything. Okay, a horrible example of how to be. Okay, as a leader, man. Okay, and they're beating their servants, spiritually with false doctrine and bad leadership, poor leadership, man. Okay, destroying, okay, the servants. You see the other servants of the house, man. Okay. So keep reading. It says the master will return unannounced and unexpected. Yeah, because these niggas are so in tune with this world. Niggas gotta show you what they cooking. Niggas gotta tell you all their business, and niggas really want to be reality stars. Okay. Then tune in with the right now. Okay, so spiritual things, but that's why prophecy is not at the forefront of Jake's ministry, man. Okay, and Yahushua just creeping on niggas, man, getting closer and closer as niggas get as niggas get more into themselves. Okay, and they're gonna be punished with the unbelievers, man, which are gonna be them nukes, man. There's a lot of people with fringes that's gonna be reserved for nukes, man. That ain't right. Okay, verse 7, it says, and the servant who knows what the master wants but isn't prepared and doesn't carry out those instructions will be severely punished, man. And this is the leadership, okay, of these false camps, because they're privy to all right, the instructions, okay, of Yahweh Shema Shai, what he wants passed down to the rest of the servants. Okay. So if you had a steward that was left in charge, all right, him and the Lord, the master, they will have, these one-on-ones about what's expected while he's gone. Okay. So when he comes back and things are out of order, okay, well, that steward is going to get the worst punishment because he was given specific instructions. All right. These guys, they broke off from, certain guys broke off from GMS, and, really what Captain Tazariak and Genesis guys, Sakari, all of them broke off from GMS. So they received those instructions. They got that, all right, those intimate, all right, details of what's expected, because they was around. You see? And that's why their punishment is going to be severe. And the Lord that punished them niggas now with a plague of the mind. Okay? It says, but isn't prepared and doesn't carry out those instructions will be severely punished by someone who does not know. All right, then does something wrong, will be punished only lightly. When someone has been given much will be required in return. And when someone has been entrusted with much, even more will be required. Okay, so as these men, profess to have all this knowledge, where they're required to have a certain conduct, a certain discipline, a certain restraint. Okay, because they've been entrusted with a lot. Okay, we've been entrusted with a lot. That's why it's different from us as teachers. We can't live like, we live according to a different standard, even amongst those whom we teach. Okay, there's a different expectation from, all right, the teachers and the leaders, all right, and those that believe. Okay, it's a different requirement. Okay, it's a different sacrifice. You see, it's a different level of discipline. Okay, this ain't, and Jake think it's about, popularity and clout and being seen and filthy lucre and putting off this image, missing the whole point. That's why they're not fit for any leadership roles in the kingdom, man. So let's go back to, 1 Corinthians chapter 4. Okay, 1 Corinthians 4. Okay, in 3 it says, as for me, it matters very little how I might be evaluated by you, all right, or by any human authority. I don't even trust my own judgment, all right, on this point. My conscience is clear, but that doesn't prove I'm right. It is the Lord himself who will examine me and decide. So the Apostle Paul, is saying, like, look, I don't have, I got a clear conscience. I know I haven't, done anything disorderly among you. Okay, but the last judgment is that of Yahweh Bashim Shai. We can't judge ourselves, to be good, the last judgment comes from Yahweh Bashim Shai. That's why, it keeps us honest that we continue to fight until the end. Okay, we can never be content, okay, with things we've done. It's all about continuing in righteousness, man. Because the Most High is going to give that final verdict in these times to come. You see? So we can't even judge ourselves to be in the clear. Okay? Or A-OK. You see? We got to finish this thing out. All right? That's why as we get closer, we have to double down, triple down in righteousness, man. As we see niggas doubling down and tripling down and going off, man. Okay? It says, so don't make judgments about anyone, verse 5, ahead of time, before the Lord returns, for he will bring our darkest secrets to light and reveal our private motives. Then the Most High will give to each one whatever praise is due. Okay? So we can't judge anyone, all right, to be good. All right, before their time of the final verdict. You see, and this keeps us occupied. Okay, looking within. Okay, our personal development in this thing. Okay, constantly examine, making sure that we're on point. Okay, because it's the Lord. Hey, the Lord gonna do what He gonna do in judgment, man. He's gonna reveal. We have signs, we have indicators that we're on the right path. We have all these indicators that we're on the right path. And that's an incentive to keep going. Okay, but until we on them chariots, we're not in the clear. Okay, and these guys try to, present themselves as if, okay, they've got it, and you see, they solidified. Jake talked like they solidified, like they're already, you know, they have no, they push it as if they know they made it. Now they're just trying to get everybody else right. Their spirit that Jake be on. Okay, now man, we all got a course to finish, and it's gonna be the Lord who's going to reveal. And then it's a lot of dark secrets and private motives, and that's why things are steadily being revealed. These dark secrets and private motives that Jake got, like the nigga woman got. Right? Women, in the truth, these little dark secrets and private motives, all is gonna be revealed. And see, the Lord, He gives examples for people to get right. This ain't this is a horrible time to be living a double life. To be trying to showcase righteousness, but really not be about that, man. All this gonna be revealed, man. Ain't nothing tiptoeing or finessing their way into the kingdom, man. If something ain't right, all right, affliction gonna reveal it. Okay, the spirit is undefeated, man. Verse 6 said, "Dear brothers and sisters, I have used Apollos and myself to illustrate what I've been saying. If you pay attention to what I have quoted from the scriptures, you won't be proud of one of your leaders at the expense, okay, of another. All right, because like I say, they was boasting in particular men. Okay, Paul, Peter, Apollos, some, we even mentioned, Yahushua, which of course we are under the banner of Yahushua. Now he's worthy of praise. Okay, but they was causing divisions. Okay, amongst, they was creating factions centered around particular apostles, man. Okay, and it says, "For what gives you the right to make such a judgment? What do you have that the Most High hasn't given you? And if everything you have is from the Most High, why boast it were not a gift?" Because like the Church of Corinth, they were dealing with a lot of pride. Jake thought they was deep. Jake thought, they had all this wisdom, and there was a cultural current. Pride, was a major demon in current. Okay, and Jake thought a lot of themselves in the Church of Corinth. As we can get in this letter, so Paul is like, God damn. You see? Because he's hearing about the boasting, he's getting back to him, and Apostle Paul is like, you're acting like you draw this wisdom out from within you, like first off, it didn't come from Yahweh Shema Shai, okay, and given to particular men, and as if these men didn't come teach you, okay, and that's the spirit that Jake, and that's why Jake changed the doctrine so they can say, well, this came from us, just so they can have that boast. See, this comes from us. We learned this from the apostles. Jake changed up the doctrine just so they can have their boast. Okay, as if they didn't have to be taught that they was Israelites. They didn't have to be taught the names, the tribes, like they like they didn't have to be taught everything that they know. Okay, And that's a spirit, of some men. It says, verse 8 says, you think you already have everything you need. You think you are already rich. You have begun to reign in the Most High's kingdom without us. I wish you were really reigning already, for then he would, all right, for then he would be reigning, all right, we would be reigning with you. So Apostle Paul was like, damn, so y'all reigning already? He like, I wish y'all was reigning in the kingdom, because that means we'll be kings too. We all be in the kingdom. Okay, well, that's the spirit that Jake had, as if they had it all figured out. Okay, they're already in the kingdom. They already these authority figures. Okay, who don't need nothing else. Like they was good. Like they like the Church of Corinth was real boastful, man. And we see that spirit amongst Jake now. Jake move around as if they're kings already. Like they're reigning in the kingdom already. Okay. They're not in need of anything. Jake boasting in how much he making a month. Jake boasting in their life outside the truth and all the, outside of teaching. And, okay. As if they're reigning already. Certain men have become, I say, these YouTube celebrities, and they move, as if they're reigning already. Jake sitting at thrones on the Passover. Okay. You see, as if they're reigning, Let's see. See, I might. Oh, here you go. Yep. Can't make it up. All right, let's look at these guys, man. God dang. All right, look at these men. You see them. Okay, let's see. Maybe we can blow it up.
It's a generational effort.
Yeah.
You got to pass this and train with this and teach.
Jake already raining. You see, Jake already raining. Jake got it. Let's see. Look at this nigga. I don't even hear what they say. Hey, look at these niggas, man. You see? Kick way back. You see?
Did you know that almost any question you have about your revenue data can be answered almost instantly? Here's how.
We talked about
And that was a year ago. And look at the judgment. All right, these niggas got a plague of mind. This nigga is a Mo. Okay, a Crip, a Mo. You see, but a year ago, like 2024, a year some change ago past. So this is what Jake was on, man. Okay, good. You see. So yeah, I just want to show that. See, the Lord give us real time examples we can see. Illustration of what the Apostle Paul was dealing with some of these guys, man. Okay. It says, verse 9, it says, instead, I think, all right, the Most High has put us apostles on display like prisoners of war at the end of a victor's parade, condemned to die. We have become a spectacle to the entire world, all right, to people and angels alike. So let's go here to this. I want to get these customs, surrounding it. All right, what Apostle Paul is speaking on. Okay, so this real quick to the chat. So I asked it dealing with the customs, behind 1 Corinthians 4:9. All right. It said to understand why the apostles, all right, while Paul said the apostles are set last, it helps to know the customs and cultural image he is drawn from. Here are the key customs that explain, all right, the imagery. It said Roman triumph processions. Okay, so let's say Rome, they will go take down the Gauls, okay, or the Franks, they'll go take down another kingdom. Well, they would take, prisoners of war, from the nobility down to the least criminal, and they will begin what you call a triumph. They will come back to Rome, and they will show off their spoils of war as a triumph. They call it a Roman triumph procession, like a parade. Okay, and it says soldiers and victorious commanders march first. Spoils of war and conquered dignitaries, all right, the nobles, okay, of the prisoners of war, okay, will come after the soldiers and commanders. At the very end, were condemned, all right, prisoners, the lowest and most dishonored people who were on their way to execution, man. And this is what the apostle is comparing this is what the apostle Paul is comparing the apostles to, how they're looked at in the earth, okay, as the lowest and most dishonored people, okay, they're just destined, for execution, because they the Romans, they would just snatch up the apostles, and okay, they all, they die horrible deaths, man. So it was just like, these are just men, all right, these are men of no honor, they're destined, okay, for death. Okay, it says Paul sees the apostles as those at the end of the parade, all right, treated as though they are defeated, dishonored, and destined to die. Okay, and it says this visual helps his Corinthian readers understand the apostles' suffering and humiliation compared to the Corinthians' self-perceived status. So Apostle Paul letting them know, like, look, while y'all playing kings and you so puffed up and you got it figured out, this is how we looked at it out here. You see, y'all in y'all little bubble of current, okay, and y'all got it figured out, okay, that y'all already reigning in the kingdom. Y'all so puffed up and so proud, but this is how we looked at out here, man, regarded out here. Okay, it says another likely custom. It said gladiatorial games in the arena. Another likely custom behind Paul's imagery is the Roman arena, especially the morning spectacles. Those who appeared last were criminals, prisoners, all right, or condemned men, okay, forced to fight wild beasts or each other. They were effectively publicly entertainment before execution. So when Paul says, all right, the apostles are spectacles, he means they are displayed publicly, they suffer in front of crowds, and they face danger of death. All right, it said the Greek theatrion, okay, the word spectacle literally refers to what people gather, all right, to watch in the theater or arena. Paul emphasizes that the apostles are watched by the world, the angels, and people. Okay, so said this implies both humiliation, okay, and cosmic significance. Their suffering, okay, is on display not only to humans, okay, but to spiritual beings. All right, which Apostle Paul makes a reference to that. So even in the gladiatorial games, those, okay, the lowest status, the criminals, okay, all right, the prisoners, well, they will be displayed before they will have to fight each other or even wild beasts. Okay, so Apostle Paul, like, look, y'all false perception, okay, of y'allself, and the real perception, okay, that we get out here as we're moving around is completely different. Okay, it says in the ancient Mediterranean world, being first, honor, status, and power being last, shame, weakness, and humiliation. That's why Yahushua what said the first shall be last. Okay, and who was first during that time? Edom, Rome. And who was last? Israel. Okay, but of the elect, all right, that's last, they're going to be first in the world to come. The world Yahushua is going to bring. Okay, well, right now we're looked at as what? Last. Okay, by saying the apostles are last, Paul contracts the Corinthians' pride, self-importance, and desire for honor with the apostles' path of suffering, humility, and sacrifice, man. Okay, so that was a major disconnect with the Corinthians and how they perceive themselves to how the world really viewed, okay, the apostles, man. Okay, it says it flipped expectations. All right, true leadership follows the path of a Messiah suffering, not worldly glory. Okay, so going back to, okay, Corinthians, let's get. All right, First Corinthians. Let's read on. All right, First Corinthians 1 and 10. Just want to get those customs, but this First Corinthians 4 and 10, it says, our dedication to Hamashiach makes us look like fools, but you claim to be so wise in Hamashiach. We are weak, but you are so powerful. You are honored, all right, but we are ridiculed. Okay, so Apostle Paul, like, y'all get to sit up here and play powerful and wise and important. Okay, while we're out here as the scum of the earth. You see? And they're really going through their path of following Yahushua the Lamb. This is the path that the Lamb went through. Yahushua was looked at as what? The filth of the earth, the scum, the lowly, even amongst his own people. Okay, and Jake shy away with that, and that's why Jake has got the gimmicks. See, Jake shy away from the suffering through the gimmicks, being world friendly, got the hat on, got the marching, got the shield, got this going on, got to show the weddings, got to show, like they're like Jake is just good. Like Jake is in this Israelite utopia in America, man. It's like that ain't the reality of this thing, man. Okay, and that's why at the slightest affliction, a lot of these Israelites gonna buckle. Okay, he said even now we go hungry and thirsty. We don't even have enough clothes to keep warm. We are often beaten and have no home. We work wearily with our own hands to earn our living. We bless those who curse us. We are patient with those who abuse us. Okay? It's also the apostles, they didn't live this glamorous life, man. Like especially at the forefront, the leadership, man. They was actually being beaten. Like Paul goes into being shipwrecked and in prison. And you see? The life of a prophet ain't this glamorous life to the world. Okay? Yeah, we teach this wisdom. We have this wisdom in earthen vessels, but it's for the glory of Yahweh Bashim Al-Shai. We don't get any glory on this side. Okay? We're drinking that cup of suffering on this side. The Lord gives us our little moments and look, perks here and there, man. But that ain't the lifestyle. Okay, the lifestyle, it goes into a suffering, man. Being despised, looked down upon. Okay, lied on, man. You see, being looked at as the filth, being looked at as the problem. Okay, being blamed for everything. You see, just as Yahushua was, and it's making as we're going through Yahushua, we're being made like Yahushua. Okay, we're trying to glamorize, okay, this ministry and the office of a prophet, trying to glamorize and exalt ourselves, man. All right, that's not the way. And you see how that ends for these guys, man. The spirit flees from them. Okay, 1 Corinthians 4 and 13 said we appeal gently. All right, we appeal gently when evil things are said about us. Yet we are treated like the world's garbage, like everybody's trash. right up, all right, to the present moment. Okay. And it's cool. We'll take that. You see, because we understand, all right, the reward. We understand that we're approved. We'll take being disapproved by this world and approved by Yahweh Shemal Shai. We don't care about public opinion, public image. Okay, the world's perception, man. And we're pleasing, just as the Heavenly Father, He vouched for Yahweh Shai. Well, we want the Heavenly Father and Yahweh Shai to vouch for us. We want to be well pleasing. We'll get our well pleased, all right, as Yahweh Shai is presenting those crowns. That's gonna be our well pleasing. That's gonna be our validation, man. Not the comment board of this world. Okay, Instagram and Facebook. Okay, or cookout. No, that's not our validation, man. To pass over, this glamorous and theatrical Passover. Nah, man. Okay. It says, I am not writing these things to shame you, but to warn you as my beloved children. Okay. For even if you had 10,000 others to teach you about Hamashiach, you have only one spiritual father. For I became your father in Yahweh Shai Hamashiach when I preach the good news to you. So he's saying, look, you can have 10,000 people that can come and teach you of Hamashiach. But who's going to take on their responsibility as a father? With Apostle Paul, he was taking their responsibility as a father in the spirit. Okay, which is still in discipline, structure, expectations. Okay. So Apostle Paul, like, look, y'all can boast in, you got all these different teachers and everybody, it's just this great. Okay. Everybody's the greatest. Okay, but who's going to take the responsibility as a father out of all these teachers and instructors? Okay, and it says, verse 16 says, so I urge you to imitate me. That's why I sent Timothy, my beloved and faithful child in the Lord. He will remind you of how I follow, all right, of how I follow Yahweh Shai Mashiach, just as I teach, all right, in all churches wherever I go. Some of you have become arrogant, thinking I will not visit you again, but I will come as soon if the Lord lets me, and then I will find out whether, all right, these arrogant people, all right, just give pretentious, all right, speeches, or whether they really have, okay, Most High's power. So the Most High, Apostle Paul, I want to see the way Jake will boast out. He Apostle Paul. I want to see it. I want to see this, man. The way the reports I'm getting, with Jake on, I got to see this power that Jake. Jake got to be a Marvel comic book hero. The way Jake be putting on. Okay, it said, for the kingdom of the Most High is not just a lot of talk; it is living by the Most High's power. Okay, which do you choose? Should I come with a rod to punish you, or should I come with love and gentle spirit? Okay. You see, so Apostle Paul, like, how do I need to come at y'all, man? Like, what y'all on? So that was the the end of 1 Corinthians 4. Lord will, you brothers, all right, and you sisters edified once again. I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Kakodash, and double honors unto the apostles and the elders of GMS who rule well, teach well, being great examples to his younger brothers. And peace and blessing, salutations, hopefully, shalom.